You will own nothing and be happy? That sounds like a crazy quote, but before we jump into the implications of that, make sure you hit subscribe below to stay on top of all of the latest Huntsville, Alabama real estate news. Owning nothing and being happy sounds like a crazy quote, but it seems to be coming to fruition in everyday life, and you don't want to allow this to happen to you as an individual or as a family. You look at just simple things such as, we used to own VCRs and DVDs for movies. Now we don't even own the streaming service. We rent a streaming service from Netflix, or we rent a movie off of Amazon. So it's these little things that are adding up to big things such as home ownership. Home ownership is at a 50-year decline or 50-year low in this country, and it's continued to decline. It's not likely to increase anytime soon, and a lot of that has to do with the effects of what the Fed is doing. The Fed lowered interest rates when we had record low supply, and they literally set the housing market on fire, and then they doubled those interest rates almost overnight. And what that did is that created this trap for a lot of would-be sellers, this mortgage rate lockdown effect, where a lot of these home sellers have, or would-be home sellers have, interest rates in the high 2s or low 3s, and they're simply not motivated enough to sell their homes, which is creating less supply for these first-time home buyers to get into the marketplace. The other trend to be watching towards more of a renter type nation is the decline of the US dollar in terms of world reserve currency. We had an 8% decline in 2022. And why is all that important? Well, that really helps create artificially low prices and low borrowing costs here in the US. So as the US dollar declines in terms of declines in terms of reserve currency, that's going to mean less access to capital. That's going to mean higher borrowing costs, a higher mortgage rate to buy that first home, and then it's likely going to make stock market valuations decline as well, which is going to decrease our wealth effect and really decrease ownership across the US. The other big headline that we're seeing that's affecting this trend towards renter nation is that we're inflating our money away. Inflation is nothing that's new, just inflation at the elevated levels is something that we haven't seen since the 1980s. Inflation truly is a thief to people that are saving and trying to save and purchase big assets such as their first home. I pulled the stats for the last 52 years, and we've lost 98% of our purchasing power in this country. So you might be asking, what can I do to protect myself? What can I do to protect my family against this inflation? Well, number one is hard assets such as gold or silver. That is something that typically keeps pace with inflation. But if you want to get ahead of inflation, you look at real estate, because real estate really is an inflation multiplier, and it allows you to beat inflation and to really increase your wealth during high inflationary periods. Owning stuff does not ultimately create happiness, but the inverse of that, of not owning stuff, definitely doesn't create happiness either. True wealth is created through home ownership, 40 times the net worth of homeowners versus renters. So if you're a renter and you're in these high-end apartment complexes, here's what's going to happen. They're going to continue to increase those rents year after year. And if you don't have the margin and the safety to be able to save up towards that down payment of home ownership, you're going to get locked into this renter nation status and never be able to own a home or be able to create wealth in this country. And so the sacrifices today is going to allow you to live like no one else today, so you can live like no one else in the future, as Dave Ramsey says. So if you're looking into how you get out of this trap of being a renter and getting into a homeowner, shoot us an email at moving@mattcurtisrealestate.com or give us a call today at 256-333-MOVE.